at first he was shaking my hand. So like, third, fourth day he started hugging me, and I remember like thinking like, man, Michael Jackson was hugging me.
Yeah.
I kind of melted in his arms.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Snap out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was amazed by it too, but I was
course.
very professional because I didn't want to act like a fan at all.
Sure.
Right? So I didn't have any fan moments until he left. Me and Marsha would hug and fall out every day he'd leave.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It'd be us in this huge studio, you know what I mean? Falling out. You know what I mean? And I remember we'd be sitting at the console and he'd be snapping to listen to that back to the music. I'm like, the snap was so loud we ended up recording it.
Wow.
So I remember we sit at the console and he'd be snapping and I just lean back in my chair and I kind of like look at him and like kind of stare at him because I wanted to remember what Michael Jackson looked like in my own head. Not about, you know what I mean? Because you work with somebody, you're not gonna stare at him. This is Michael Jackson.
That's right.
If I could have took a minute and just like, look at you, Mike.
That's right.
Let me see, man. Pull your hands, man. Let me see, man.
Yeah.
He was, he was more than a legend. You know what I mean?
Icon.
Can we talk? Can we talk? Can we talk? R&B.
What's up? It's your boy Ian Vaughn with the Can We Talk R&B podcast. I'm really, really excited that you guys have tuned in once again, because I have another legendary talent that has contributed incredibly to the culture. He's worked with Michael Jackson. He's worked with Chris Brown, Usher, Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, just to name a few. Listen, I have none other than my man, Mr. Andre Harris.
Hey,
thank you for joining us today,
man. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Can we talk R&B?
Hey, let's do it, man.
Look, we in Miami. We in beautiful Miami.
It's true.
And, when we had the opportunity to get you on the show, I was just like super excited because I've been a fan of your music really since the early mid-90s. Since the mid-90s,
wow.
I've been really tapped into a lot of the music that you've been working on and contributed to. And it's been an incredible contributor to the culture of R&B and all of us R&B fans. A lot of people, when they hear your name, they may not know specifically, but when they hear the songs, it's unquestionably they know exactly who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a blessing. It's been a journey for sure, to say the least, to be a part of so much great music, that I consider great.
For sure.
And
no question.
I mean, it's been a journey and a ride for sure. You know what I mean? This is my actual first podcast. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm just tapping in, telling my stories. So,
Listen,
you know what I'm saying?
That's what it's about. And I know you got plenty of stories. So
yes.
we want to hear about it. We want to hear about it. So I guess to just get it started, you're from Philly, right?
From Philly, born and raised.
It's something in the water in Philly, bro.
Definitely something in the water in Philly. I mean, growing up in Philly, we had the incredible producers Gamble and Huff, who contributed so much music. Patti LaBelle, Teddy Pendergrass, the OJs. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So there was a standard and a thing of good music always around in Philly, and I have to actually say the church contributed a lot to the music and musicians and the sound of Philly also.
Yes.
I actually grew up in the church.
PK?
Grandkid.
Okay.
My grandma was the pastor. So,
I'm same way.
I had to go to church, Sunday all day, 2 times, Tuesday night service, Thursday, Saturday rehearsal, you know what I mean? But the good thing about it is I played drums. Nice. I started playing drums around like probably 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And the music was so advanced in the church where I was.
What was it? Were you Kojic? Were you Baptist?
It was Pentecostal.
Pentecostal church.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Pentecostal.
So that's that Kojic tree.
Yeah, they jump and shout and pray, and they go hard.
I grew up the same way.
You know what I mean? That's all. That's what I know growing up for sure. But my uncle, he played bass for the Winans growing up.
Nice.
And one of my other uncles, he played guitar for People's Choice. So we had a combination of both sides of the music. So, they were like tough on us and playing in church. I was 6, 7 years old. And they were like looking at me, hey, give me that pocket. So By the time I was 9 years old, 10 years old, I was playing like an adult for sure.
Come on.
You know,
and the Winans were like, a lot of people don't understand. The Winans were superstar gospel artists in the '90s and the '80s, rather.
Hit songs for sure. BB and CC.
Yes.
You know, the Winans. I mean, they were huge.
Marvin, I actually posted a story on my story today. Shout out to Kevin on Stage, the comedian. He posted Marvin Winans playing The Question Is Today. I literally posted that today on my stories.
Yeah, like I mean, we used to sing all those songs in my church. You know, but you know, I used to go into my uncle's room because he was a bass player, so he had like, I mean, Steely Dan records, Prince, all kinds of things. So you know, he was only probably maybe 12, 13 years older than me. To be honest with you, something like that. You know, so.
Big brother vibes.
Yeah. I would sneak in there and take his cassette tapes and make copies of some of these albums and stuff. So, you know, my music palette was quite different from, you know, a kid growing up in the hood in Philly, you know what I'm saying, and playing in church. So,
yeah,
I guess that was the foundation of.
It'd be a musical foundation. Yeah. So what made you fall in love with R&B?
Oh, man. I mean, well, my mom, you know, she played Anita Baker and I mean Zap, Computer Love, all these different songs like that. I mean, growing up, you know, we talk on the phone. I remember making my little playlist, you know, of R&B songs. You know what I mean? I mean, the songs with R&B, you couldn't fight it. That's what, you know, where we come up from.
It's a mood. It's a vibration.
It's it. Rhythm and blues.
For sure. Speaking back like to the Winans felt R&B. You know what I mean? Like although they were like them and Commission and groups like that. Yeah,
very commercial gospel. You know what I mean? So they was giving you that inspirational feel, but still the sonics of R&B. So you know, especially Commission also. You know what I mean? Fred Hammond and them guys. I mean, they set the trends for a lot of the R&B singers. You know what I mean? Because when I think back, I remember. You had Casey and JoJo, little Casey. He used to sing quartet.
That's right.
He had a little quartet album on. I remember my uncle playing that album and stuff, and we probably used to sing some of the songs at my church with the bell chorus.
It's Casey and the Haley Singers.
That's it. The Haley Singers. I remember he had a little Jerry Curl on the cover. You know what I'm saying? You know your stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And I remember when Jodeci came out, I was like, "Yo, that's Casey."
Bruh. I remember that project. I don't think I had the album. I just remember one of my cousins used to sing with John P. Key.
Right.
In his choir. And long story short, I remember him having that tape. And that's when I first heard this voice, KC. Next, fast forward to when Jodeci comes out, 92, something like that.
Right.
I'm a kid and I remember him like.
Even Aaron Hall. I remember seeing him sing in church. It was called Highway at the time. And actually, the pastor's son, Stephen Ford, who was legendary in our city, Philadelphia, and across the world, gospel genius, and just genius level.
It's a musician across the board.
Composer. He's also a professor at I forget what college it is too, but he's like the godfather of gospel for all the musicians that come out of Philly and spread all across the world for sure. You know what I mean? To see him play as a kid was just like a treat. You know what I mean? And he held the standard, and he, you know, so I remember all the big singers and everybody would come to their church, you know. So I remember I think Aaron Hall was singing with Hezekiah Walker, you know, and Stephen Ford, Andy Ford, they had a record label called Sweet Rain Productions, and they had like Yolanda Adams, Hezekiah Walker, you know what I mean? So, you know, I remember hearing these albums before they came out because my uncle used to do some of the overdubs.
That's right.
I would be blown away. You know what I mean? Then when I saw Guy come out, I'm like, oh, that's Aaron Hall.
Come on.
Like, you know,
it's always interesting, like the relationship between gospel music and R&B music. It's pretty much been synonymous, you know, and I know a lot of, you know, growing up the way I grew up, a lot of R&B artists having the chops, you know, you got your chops from there.
Right.
And you had to, you know, it's a lot of competition in the church in terms of what musicians are doing. So you're judging this guy, oh, okay, he got it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Versus, you know, when someone's trying to get it on and you're learning how to be that much more better of a musician. Fast forward to being I got somebody like Aaron Hall to, I mean, all of our favorite R&B artists come from the pedigree of the church. That's like
in
the
some
stomping
form
grounds.
or fashion. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised who comes from the church. I'm not
Absolutely.
surprised,
So with you being a church kid, how many instruments do you play? I know you play
I
drums.
started off playing drums, and this is what the church does too. It forces you to play other instruments when the
Sure.
keyboard player doesn't show up.
That's right.
And that's how I learned how to start playing keys.
Gotcha.
We were doing gigs, and my old partner Vidal,
Yep.
he played drums also. That's how we
Nice.
know each other through church.
Gotcha.
And the keyboard player wouldn't show up, so I'd end up having to learn the songs. You know what I mean? And before you knew it, I was playing keys. You know what I mean? And it was a beautiful experience, honestly, to because it puts you on the spot. It forces you to learn songs,
Right.
immediately, and to have a pocket. All these different things that the professional world,
Yeah.
teaches you. At least that's how it was when I was coming up.
Yeah.
It's many different levels of church musicians, of
For
course.
sure.
You know what
Do
I mean?
you
But
feel that's what getting to your production bag is those are your foundational pieces? Like, at what point did you take it from the church house to the music business?
okay, so I mean, while I was in church, I was already playing like for R&B groups. It was a group called Total Commitment, and actually Pink Sweats. That's his uncle. Actually,
Nice.
was just singing in that group. So I was
Shout out
exposed.
to Pink Sweats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he lives out here also.
Does he? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, nice.
Shout out.
We
to
may
Pink
need to try
Sweats.
to get Pink Sweats on the
Yeah.
show. Pink Sweats, can we talk R&B? Come
Yes,
on.
sir. Yes, sir. He's killing too.
Oh yeah, he's dope.
Yeah. He's a Philly cat too, also. So
Nice.
I was exposed to the R&B and different things because all the musicians that were ahead of me, like James Poyser, John Roberts, they were starting to do gigs with like CeCe Peniston and Janet Jackson, and all these different secular artists that we considered at the time. So that was the goal, for a church musician to tap into that side, to go on tour or to play for somebody, that's big. You know what I mean? But long story short, I was playing and, I was doing gigs and different things like that and playing keys. But Vidal, he came into some money from an accident, and he ended up buying some studio equipment.
Nice.
We were probably 16, 17. And I mean, when he plugged it in, I mean, he started doing beats that sound like they should be on the radio immediately. And I was like completely blown away about it, because Vidal was a genius. He still is, you know what I mean? And I'm like, how do you learn this? How do you know all this stuff? He's a different type of guy, right? So long story short, one of our other friends knew Jazzy Jeff, Keith Pelzer.
Okay.
And, he would go over his house sometimes. So, and James Poyser also knew Jazzy Jeff. So, Philly was small, and all the really good musicians, they go to the top and everybody starts to know who they are. So, you know what I mean? They have the Philly connection. So Jazzy Jeff, he was doing like this acid jazz kind of gigs where he was spinning with a live band. Back then, that was like, the beginning of that, you know what I mean? Which we like cultivated in Philly, to be honest with you. And we had like a spot called Silk City where Questlove spent Daz, King Britt. I played the drums there on Monday nights. Grape Street Lounge on Tuesday nights. So it was a lot of different venues too that, had live music. You know what I mean? So it started bringing all those church musicians out from the church, and now they're wanting to play, with these other bands and artists and stuff like that. So it built a whole movement in Philly. You know what I mean? So
such an amazing move. I mean, you guys, and I'm saying you guys, Philly guys, like some of my favorite artists have come out of Philly. Boyz II Men,
right?
Music Soul Child, Jill Scott, The Roots. I mean,
Jasmine Sullivan.
Yeah.
Who were these? Jasmine Sullivan. I used to play for her in church sometimes. Bilal used to play for him in church sometimes.
Come on.
Sean from Boyz II Men grew up down the street from a couple blocks over.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Vidal went to high school with Eve. Like Philly was I could keep going on and on.
Yeah. Man, that's insane. So I mean, I think about that, and I just think about the impact that Philly in itself has had on not just R&B, but on music in general, and how instrumental you've been with all of that throughout. I mean, the last 25 years or so. So, in terms of, I know you are. I guess when I first knew, because I'm a guy who read the liner notes all the time. When I first knew that who you at least saw your name, I'm seeing you on like Music Soul Child, Music Soul Child's music, jazz, Jill Scott's music. Like this was during that Neosoul wave.
Right.
That was what, I don't know, 97, 98, like kind of
Yeah,
leaning
it
into
started,
that.
you know, D'Angelo kind of kicked it off.
Right.
At Erykah Badu.
Yep.
You know, and they were kind of from under the same kind of camp, you know,
Okay.
Bob Powers.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know who he is, but he like mixed those albums and, you know, produced a lot of that stuff too.
Nice. I remember the name.
Right. So, you know, D'Angelo coming out, it was just like, man, you got this guy singing these cool, churchy changes and stuff, but the lyrics are hip and the beats are a vibe.
That's
you
right.
know,
That Brown
hip-hop.
Sugar album was
Man, that Brown
crazy.
Sugar album is still classic. Like,
No question.
You know, the songs were great, the music, it was fresh, it was such a vibe, right?
Yep.
And it opened up this whole soul movement
Yeah.
to me, basically. D'Angelo, you know, Tony really always.
They were the architects.
They were the architects, you know what I'm saying? And you know, you had Mint Condition too, but they were playing a different kind of R&B. You know, that Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Yes,
you know,
they were like,
you know,
funk
Jimmy
R&B,
Jam, Prince undertones, all that energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was they sounding. You know, the early '90s, man.
Right.
You know, Pretty Brown Eyes,
Come
Can Break
on.
My Heart. I mean, those classic
swing
R&B songs with a live band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that opened it up also because
Yeah.
you know we're at that time we're hearing all kinds of drum machines, synthesizers. You know what I'm saying? Which is the vibe at the time, you know. But they brung that live, you know, just like man, everybody wanted to play that. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And you know, so in Erykah Badu, you know, she opened up the whole soul movement also.
That's right.
And a lot of the Philly cats were involved in her sound also. James Poyser, some of the horn players, Questlove, you know, which was very refreshing to hear that stuff at the time being young.
No question.
What is this?
That's right. I mean? We didn't have at that time. I remember when that album dropped, Erykah Badu's album, 97, 98, somewhere in there, right?
Nah,
Was it before that?
It might be before that. I'm not sure.
Maybe a little bit
but
before that.
I know like the other side of the radio
creation of it. Gotcha.
was Bad Boy and that kind of sound.
Exactly.
You know, if you know, it was
That's
the whole
point. Exactly.
you
That's
know,
the point I was about to make. But
it was well rounded too. You know what I mean? Because it was still good music. You know what I mean? Bad Boy was smashing. You know what I mean? You had the Fugees. You had all different kinds of, good music. You know what I mean?
You had so much good music at that time.
Lauryn Hill coming out.
That's right.
Her solo album opened it up too for live instrumentation. Very refreshing. A classic album still to this day.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you had Maxwell. You know what I mean?
Come on, man.
Bringing a live vibe, up tempo.
Still the man.
You know what I mean?
I actually cover Ascension. Like every show I do almost, I open up the show to Ascension.
It's a classic sound that'll never die. I mean, you know, something about organic instruments and sounds. Even if you don't actually have to play them, it's just something about that sound and feel. You know what I mean?
Right.
Live drums, live instruments. You know what I mean?
You were able to transition. I mean, being like I'm calling you one of the architects, but you doing that with guys like, you know, with Music Soul Child, Floetry, you know, a lot of these artists, but you also were able to, you weren't trapped in that box.
Right.
You know, you work with Chris Brown, Usher, you were able to have that mainstream pop sound as well, which made you that much more of a well-rounded producer.
Right. Well, fortunately, you know, Vidal and myself, because we did a lot of stuff together,
right,
for sure, and we also did stuff individually at A Touch of Jazz, also. You know what I mean? So, when I was under the roof of Touch of Jazz, we did a lot of different kinds of music, basically rap, hip hop. We were doing everything, but the soul music just so happened to take off. So people identified us as these soul producers, right?
Gotcha.
And so when we start getting in the room with these other cats and we slapping these other, you know, mainstream R&B beats, they like, oh, you know, especially when they meet us. You know, I remember meeting Puff and stuff like really for the first time back then. He's like, I thought y'all was gonna show up with like dreads and incense, and, you know what I'm saying? Y'all so, you know, we slapping those beats though. You know what I mean? For us, you know, fortunately, was well rounded in my production. You know what I mean? Because we could go from making a Jill Scott record, "Is It the Way," to a Sierra O. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and it's
two totally different vibes.
It's just really understanding sonics and the formula of music. You know what I mean? Understanding drums. You know, the current sounds.
As a producer, do you foundationally, you being a drummer, I guess when you play all the instruments, but as a drummer, do you feel like the production starts there for you?
It depends. Sometimes it used to start with the drums, and then sometimes it may start with the melodies, you know, and chords or whatever the case is, depending on how I'm working. You know, if I'm working by myself, I can start a track with the drums or however at the side or a sample or, you know, but if I'm working with a singer, perhaps normally, you know, they might want to hear some melodies or samples or, you know, at the end of the day, they just want to hear something that's fire. You know what I mean? However it's going, but you know, the drums, I mean, it's the rhythm section. So, you know, it plays a big part. And, you know, the drums actually dictate, you know, what the song can be, you know, actually.
Gotcha.
And, you know, if you evolve, you got to actually evolve with the drums.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, for instance, a lot of people don't realize this, but like Teddy Riley was the king of New Jack Swing. Right?
Yep.
Then you have Timbaland come out with this 16 straight.
That's right. Yeah.
And Timbaland changed. He completely shut down New Jack swing beats.
So Timbaland's production is what stopped that.
Yeah.
That
A lot of people don't realize
cadence.
that. Yeah, but he changed it to everybody pushing the straight 16s instead of the swing. Timbaland is responsible for that in my eyes. You know what I mean? And he opened up the whole drum programming and sound for hi-hats and triplets and Timbaland.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know?
After that, well, since we're on that page, during that Timbaland still is killing it. But at that time, I remember when I was first, you know, 95, I don't know, you're hearing, when I knew it was Timbaland, right? So, you know, it's obviously Genuine, you have Missy, Aaliyah.
Right.
You hear all these different tracks that felt so different. Then you started to hear Rodney Jerkins' sound. He started to kind of have some of that. So some of those beat, that cadence that you're referring to, 16.
Because we all get inspired by what's the hot thing.
Right.
You know, you just can't help it, you know, and the drums always evolve. You know what I mean? That's how you stay current with the sounds of the drums. The drums are doing. You know,
big ups to Timbo.
Like, I mean, he's a legend.
He's
a
legend.
So is Teddy Riley. You know what I mean? Two VA cats.
No, for sure, I mean? Absolutely, and for real from VA.
Yeah, something in the water over there too.
For sure.
Pharrell, Timbaland, Teddy, Devontae.
That's right, Devontae.
Like, what do you mean? Those guys are responsible for a huge portion of R&B and pop music.
No question. No question.
You know?
So I guess, like, as a producer, from your standpoint, being inspired by those guys that you just mentioned, you know, you've had this illustrious career to, at the time, you just working with guys, I guess, that you know, or guys that's in the space, and you don't realize the impact that that's having literally on people like me. I'm from Louisiana.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There are people from Texas. Well, I think Erykah Badu is from Dallas, I think.
Right.
So she,
or Houston, one of them,
like some from Texas, but her sound, I know she went to Grambling University, and her sound, you know, just pretty much spread out, because now you got a person from the South with this Philly sound doing her unique thing. You know, she was in her own space, but you as a producer touching all these little, you know, touching all these artists, touching all these markets. Are you paying attention to the fact that, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you aware of this? Like, and the impact of that? Like,
well, the funny thing is,
you're just working.
You know, at the time, you're just working. And I remember getting to a point, and this is, to be honest with you, I remember at Touch of Jazz, thinking I'm about to get, like, maybe fired. You know what I mean, as a producer. And I remember, like, thinking, like, man, you know what? I'm just gonna shut up and let my music speak for me. You know what I mean? Because I'm tired of arguing or fight for stuff. You know what I mean? And I remember, you know, just thinking, like, you know what? I'm just gonna tear up everything that comes across my plate. I'm not gonna get upset, and I'm not gonna get happy, actually, or excited. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if one thing happens, I'm just gonna keep moving to the next. And this is like the thing that I applied to my thinking. So like I remember working with Michael Jackson, and I wasn't excited because I was like, man, I'm scared this song might not go or happen. You know what I mean?
What song is this?
And this is the song Butterflies, actually.
Obviously,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a whole story. We could get into that too at some point.
Yeah.
I just remember like having probably 7 singles on the radio. It was Let's Take a Long Walk.
Come on.
Is It the Way? Love, Music Soul Child. Girl Next Door, Music Soul Child. All You Gotta Do Is Say Yes, Floetry. And then it was the artist Glenn Lewis, Don't You Forget It.
Don't you forget
and then
it.
Butterflies that came out all at the same time.
Man.
And I just remember thinking, one of my buddies was like, man, you know, it's okay to be like happy and excited. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, well, what's next? I mean, that's out.
The crazy part is to say you have, and you're naming these songs, I know this, 7 songs on the radio at the same time. And these are all the top songs. These are not just like, you know what I'm saying, fly by night. These are like the number ones, whatever, however it was charting. And still to this day are still the songs that we play every party. If it's an R&B party, there's no doubt every one of those songs you just named are playing all across the country, all across the globe.
I mean, it's a blessing, to be honest, because any, I guess, like live night or live band R&B that I go into, I'm going to hear one of those songs. You know what I mean?
So in terms of that, and I know all these albums are going double, triple, quadruple, platinum, et cetera, et cetera. So I know you're making some money.
Right.
What'd that look like at that time?
I mean, it was looking incredible. I mean, I was 25, 26. I had worked with Michael Jackson, you know, and he allowed me to keep my publishing and all these different things at the time, you know. I was young and making money, for sure.
Did you have a publishing deal to get these placements? Or?
No, I didn't have a publishing deal. I had a deal with Jazzy Jeff at the time. You know what I mean? It was a small deal. You know what I mean? But of course, after having those kind of records out, you know, the publishing companies are coming for sure. And to be honest with you, I didn't do a great deal because, you know, I was still pretty naive to the business side.
Sure.
And pretty ignorant to the business side, to be honest with you. So, you know, when you're popping and you get money, you rely on the person that you think knows.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? And 9 times out of 10, you know, everybody's taking advantage to a certain extent.
Of course.
But, you know, when I look back and I started to learn the business, I was like, damn, this publishing deal was terrible. You know what I mean? Because of certain stipulations, you know what I mean? The money wasn't terrible, but the stipulations were terrible. You know what I mean? And you live and you learn. That's all you can do. You know what I mean? But because it's basically business music.
Absolutely.
You know, the creative side is this, you know, the business side of it is huge.
It's everything.
You know what I mean? And, you know, I just encourage everybody to understand the business, you know, double, triple check, you know what I mean? Managers, business managers, lawyers, you know what I mean?
Make sure you got your best interest at heart.
Sure.
And then you know, it's important for us to educate ourselves to what we know what to look for.
Right.
You know, so, but with that said, again, you had, you know, Michael Jackson allowed you to keep your publishing, which is crazy. But of course, he was a master of the business for sure.
I mean, Mike was a savvy businessman for sure, to say the least. I mean, he bought the Sony catalog, of course. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure it generated over $1 billion something dollars.
I think, I want to say it was like $1.5 billion, $2 billion.
Something like that. You know what I mean? I mean, he was a genius, you know what I mean? And an incredible human being, you know what I'm saying, to say the least. You know what I mean?
So I guess the question I want to ask, you guys generated a lot, had all these records, you generated all of this, you know, all this publishing, et cetera, and understanding the business of it. I read something recently that you guys recently sold your publishing. Did you sell all your publishing? Because I know it's been a piece. Okay, because I know you had this revisions come after so long, which is another benefit in terms of what you're doing. Like, what are your thoughts on that? We just recently read about Puff giving back publishing to some of his artists. You know, what are your thoughts on that as a whole?
Well, I mean, the Puff giving back, you know, publishing. I mean, it's a noble thing, but you know, after a while, you know, some of these, you know, pieces of work lose its value, right?
Yeah.
You know, of course. Honestly, I think the catalog deals are a good thing, depending on you're leveraging what you have to offer in your
Right.
catalog. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because you can negotiate, you know, and leverage it in the ways that you feel comfortable with. You know what I mean? At the
I mean,
time,
I'm just
you
going to
know,
ask, I mean, with the
you know?
type of catalog that you have, do you have FU money now? I'm sorry to interrupt, but a lot of you guys are watching the show and are not subscribing. I'm seeing thousands of views, but I'm not seeing you guys subscribe. Just hit the button, subscribe, please. I'm waiting. Now back to the show.
I mean, I'm out here chilling, man. You know what I'm saying? I just came back from vacation a couple days, man. You know, I can't complain, man. God is good.
It was
You
funny.
know?
It was funny. Like you said, you just got back from Tulum. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I say that's rich people shit. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
I
man.
saw Ryan Toby. You know, we were.
That guy's always traveling. I mean,
Man, he be
he's
everywhere.
everywhere.
He
I'm
everywhere.
thinking, bro, where are you at?
Yeah.
I'm just in Jamaica, but I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, he'll post, I guess, after he leaves.
Yeah.
He was in Turkey because I was trying to, when I was in LA a few weeks back, I was like, let's go grab dinner or whatever. He was like, man, I'm in Turkey this week.
Yeah, he
Like,
does the same thing. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm in LA. Oh, man, I'm not even there. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Big shout out. But I love that, honestly, to have guys like you guys who are still active in the business. But although, you know, the business has been what it's been,
Right.
There's been ups and downs, you guys are still thriving, have still made enough money to win in certain ways and still be relevant and not be one of these guys. You know, unfortunately, some guys that we meet, we know that's worked in the business didn't have as much success as it relates to how the game has ran over them in a lot of ways.
Right. I mean, it's been a lot of different kind of situations for everybody, to be honest with you, because you have some people who actually blow their money, you know what I mean, and you know, are fortunate to make more money, you know what I mean, because, you know, the fortunate thing about being a producer or songwriter, you collect royalties, and you know, certain things may stream your songs over. I mean, it's a lot of different things that, you know, can always keep you afloat financially, you know. But like I say, you got to be smart business wise. I've been fortunate enough to still be able to work and, you know, stay, you know, relevant and active, you know what I'm saying? But you also have to be smart, you know what I mean? I have made some investments and, you know, things to sustain my life when, you know, I'm not so inspired by music.
Yeah, when things slow down.
You
And
know?
that's the thing. Is in business, you know, we buy, we sell. You make some money, you know, with that money you make, it's best that you take that, invest in some other things
it's
that
called recycle the money.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's the best thing I you know, say I do with my money, actually, you know, recycle.
Gotcha.
You know? So, you know, like Pooh Bear also, he also lives out here.
Shout out to Pooh Bear.
Yeah, he's another, you know, still inspiration to me. You know, he's still working and killing it. And, you know, he's an actual one of the partners on the sporter company. We are all invested in H Factor.
Nice.
Look out for it. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? It's popping. Everybody get you some H Factor water.
H Factor. Nice. Okay, that's awesome.
This is H Factor water in this cup.
I love it. I love it. So what's the biggest, let's switch back to, I guess, to the subject of R&B.
Let's get there.
And I'm a business guy too, so I tend to do that. A lot of people watch the show and they're like, man, is this an R&B podcast or is this a business podcast? But honestly, it's a combination of both, because it's important to teach young songwriters, producers, artists, whatever, how to make pivots in their business, you know what I mean? To keep themselves afloat, to do what we want to do.
Yeah, because there's always times when, you know, if you have made it, you know, people always, you know, they get this screwed up. You know, it's easier to make it than to sustain yourself. You know what I mean? You know, you can get one hit, but what's next? You know what I mean? So unless you're ready to kill it and generate a preparation meets opportunity kind of situation, you know, it could be tough. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you can have a hit song and somebody think you're a millionaire just from the song, but it doesn't always work like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So also you have to be willing to work uninspired sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just part of the music business. You know, you're working with people who may not inspire you. You know what I mean? But it's music at the end of the day. So
it's music.
It keeps you inspired to say.
So what are the biggest changes in R&B today, in your opinion?
I mean, of course, we got to start with the lyrics.
Yeah. Come
on. You know, I mean, the lyrics and writers today, don't get me wrong, there's some very good lyrics in some songs for sure, but You know, because we have songs like Bruno Mars, "Leave the Door Open."
Yeah,
It's,
fantastic.
You know, it's a lot of example of songs we can use, but I just think that we're in a time where writers don't actually necessarily, or the artists don't necessarily have to think as hard or challenge themselves creatively. You know what I mean? Because everything it's on a lower level
dumbed
of
down. It's like a lower frequency.
It's a third grade level of entertainment, basically. Especially when you listen to some of these rap songs, but we ain't talking about rap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the whole thing is rap has influenced R&B so hard. So it's like, the rap is, it can be a hit song dumbed down, but that's rap.
That's right.
But it's influenced the R&B artists to also dumb down, you know what I mean? Which I don't get.
We need to take it back.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess it's ways to be tasteful.
Yeah.
And using your voice. You know what I mean? That it's not too much, for sure. You know what I mean? I quite enjoy somebody with a beautiful tone.
Yeah.
Not over singing all these runs and acrobatic things, you know what I mean, vocally. And, I'm old school, so I love to hear somebody sing the shit out of a song with a feel to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's important when you sing it, as a singer, I do know, specifically growing up in church, you learn to let the spirit move you. You know what I mean? It's like you're talking about something, whatever that subject matter is, you want to be passionate when you're saying a specific thing, when you're trying to relay a message. Too often, I do agree, too often this generation of R&B music, there's a lot of it that's really good. So like people like Jasmine Sullivan, big shout out to her. I think Lucky Day is awesome. Sir is fantastic. Yeah, so it's it's a lot of really great artists that actually come from the pedigree that I like to say that are being true to writing great lyrics and dope melodies. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of hip hop influencing R&B to dumb it down for the listener, versus us trying to raise the frequency.
Right, but there's some artists out here definitely shooting a shot for sure, because I mean you got to stay current with the times too. So
no, absolutely, it's a balancing act.
It's a balance for sure.
So let me ask you this. All right, so we have a segment called the Deep Dive.
Okay,
and we briefly talked about you having the opportunity to work with Michael Jackson. With Butterflies.
Right.
Take me on that journey, having that experience with Mike.
Okay. All right. So, well, maybe because it just didn't like fall out of the sky.
Okay.
So.
How did it happen? Yeah. How did that happen?
Okay. So it's a guy, John McClain, who was Michael Jackson's manager at the time, and he also had a label on DreamWorks, and he signed Floetry with Jazzy Jeff, and he also had I think Swiss Beats signed at the time, right?
Okay.
And so Michael Jackson was finishing up his album, and John McClain was like, "Hey, I'm finishing up Mike's album. Send me some stuff." And I'm like thinking to myself, "Yeah, right. You'd never take a Michael Jackson record. Like, stop." You know what I mean? And I'm hearing like Michael Jackson got Rodney Jerkins in the studio for months, and this and that, all this huge stuff at the time for me, So covered my ass, and me and Marsha from Flourish, we got together and we worked on song Butterflies, right?
Sure.
So we did the demo version, and she killed it, of course. And I remember calling Mike's manager, John McClain. "Yeah, I'm playing for you over the phone because the technology to send songs didn't even exist. It didn't even exist. You couldn't send a song through email or any of that. You know what I mean? We actually had accounts with FedEx because you had to send CDs or DAT tapes. That's know what I mean? Old school shit. So long story short, he heard the song over the phone. Was like, "Oh man, Mike definitely got to cut this, right?" And I'm like, I didn't even flinch. I'm like, I don't even believe it. Yeah. This was where my mind was at that time. I didn't believe anything because I've been so let down by everything at the time. You know what I mean? So 2-3 months later. Funny thing is, I remember being in the studio with Faith, and I played it for her. I was like, "Yo, you should cut the song," because I didn't think they were going to continue with it. So I was trying to sell the song. So I remember playing it for her. She's like, "I like that, but it's not really my style." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know what I mean?
Oh, she lost one.
Yeah, but not really. You know what I mean? Because get that song on mic is everything. So long story short, I got the call from John, like, yeah, we're going to record Butterflies in New York at the Hit Factory. Okay, so I got a little excited, but I was like, I don't believe it. So I see Michael Jackson with my own eyes. I'm not going to even tell my mom that I'm working with him. I remember, we had the two-way pages back then. I remember, So long story short, I got to New York. Marsha was with me too, but the first days it was just me and Bruce Wideen, who is a legendary engineer.
Yeah,
he mixed records and artists all the way from Sarah Vaughan, Dizzy Gillespie, all the Jacksons, all the way up to I remember him mixing Jennifer Lopez, like this, Bruce Wideen, legend,
legendary engineer, nice,
right? So I remember meeting him and geeking out over him, and he's like, "Hey, call me Uncle Bruce," and all these things. I'm like, "What?" So I get in the studio and I'm like, Mike's not there, but I saw somebody sitting in the booth. Come to find out that was Mike, but he had his, back towards me. And he was warming up with vocal coach Seth. I can't think of his name, but he's like legendary too. Vocal coached Aretha Franklin and all these other huge artists back in the day.
Nice.
So long story short, Mike comes out the booth and I'm like, oh.
He's here.
He's here. So he's like, hey, he comes over to me, give me your hand. Let me show you how he shook my hand. So he comes over to me. He was like, and you are? I'm like, I'm Andre. And Bruce was like, well, yeah, this is Dre. He produced Butterflies. And Mike was like, I love that song. And then he left.
Wow.
See you guys. So I was like, oh, well, I guess we're not recording today. You know what I mean?
Did he cut it that day? Or
No.
Just came in, met everybody.
So that day, back then, I had digital 88 tapes.
Did he really have did he have that soft voice?
Because I heard it wasn't as soft as
I heard someone say Mike Jackson.
It was definitely mid range.
Yeah.
I love that
What's
song.
Up, man? What's up, man? It was smooth.
It was like, I love that song. I was
like,
Mike, and his handshake was firm. I was like, Mike, hey, Mike a real G.
Mike a G out here.
Yeah,
That's the thing that a lot of people, I guess, we think he was so meek and mild, which he was, but he seemed like he was just like a real one out here.
Yeah, I don't mean, Mike was in shape. He was a dancer too, so he wasn't like fragile or weak, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so the first day we dumped these tapes and the track and all these different things. And this was like the early stages of Pro Tools. Right. So he had Pro Tools. It was worth like almost $200,000 to have Pro Tools, something like that back then. So he had all this elaborate gear, and I'm like, just a fan, at the time, but also very ready to work. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
More than anything. Gotcha. So, because I would never get excited until Mike would leave every day, to be honest with you. Right?
Gotcha.
So, the next day he came back and, we were talking and Marsha's there and, so it didn't really kick in till, he got in the booth and he sang a little bit and I was like, it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, Michael Jackson. It hit me like that. And I was like, snap out of it. And I remember texting everybody, man, I'm in the studio with Michael Jackson.
Did he cut vocals like one take or was it like a...
No, it wasn't, man. To my surprise, his vocals were very fragile, because the song was very high in key. Mm-hmm. Marsha demoed it. They ain't killed the demo.
Sure.
So hearing his voice, how fragile it was kind of alarming also. I'm like, oh, yeah, his voice, you know what I mean? So we would only cut it for about an hour a day, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
We cut, we started with the hook, you know what I mean? And he loved to stack the hook very big, you know what I mean? So we had like 16 tracks of this note, tons of vocals.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. The next day we start on, some of the leads, and it was just 16 tracks of everything. And I had to comp one lead out of all these vocals. And I remember just sitting in the room with the engineer like, man, this is a lot of vocals to comp through. He's like, well, build your vocal.
Yeah.
And, so the vocal you hear, that's the one that I built out of these 16 tons of tracks, 16 tracks of the first, 16 tracks of the chorus, 16 tracks, second verse, so
nice.
So forth. And so I remember, at first he was shaking my hand. So like, third, fourth day, he started hugging me. And I remember like they like, man, Michael Jackson was hugging me.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of melted in his arms,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Snap out of it. You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
because I was amazed by him too,
Of
but you know, I
course.
was very professional because I didn't want to act like a fan at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So I didn't have any fan moments until he left. Me and Marsha would hug and fall out every day he'd leave.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It'd be us in this huge studio, you know what I mean? Falling out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember we'd be sitting at the console and he'd be snapping to listen to that back to the list. I'm like, you know, the snap was so loud we ended up recording it.
Wow.
And I remember just looking at him from the side, like I wanted
Please
to
tell me you have like some kind of footage or something.
Well, I do. I have pictures, right?
Gotcha,
But back
gotcha.
then, you know, you didn't have an iPhone.
You didn't have
you know what I'm saying?
exactly.
You had to have an extra camera. I remember having a camera in my bag, and I
Yeah.
was scared to take a picture of him
Mm,
or ask, "Can I get a picture?" Because he had like a piece of tape over his nose.
okay.
You couldn't see the pictures, so I was like, I don't think he's going to take a picture. But
Mhm.
he was like, "Sure,
cool.
yeah." You know, we took pictures and stuff like that. I wish I had video for sure,
Nice.
but I remember we sit at the console and he'd be snapping, and I just lean back in my chair and I kind of like look at him and like kind of stare at him because I wanted to remember what Michael
Of
Jackson
course,
looked like
of
in my
course.
own head,
That's
not
right.
about, you know what I mean? Because you know, you work with somebody, you're not gonna stare at him.
That's
This is
right.
Michael Jackson.
That's right.
If I could have took a minute and just like, yeah, look at you, Mike.
That's right.
Let me see, man. Pull with your hands, man. Let me see, man. You know,
Yeah.
Mike was, you know, he was more than a legend. You know what I mean?
Icon. Like,
Icon. My kids discovered Michael Jackson on their own. You know
bro,
what I mean?
it's funny. When we talk about Mike, and I've said this before, there is no person on earth more famous than Michael Jackson since Jesus.
Listen, everybody knows who he is. Still
Everybody
to this
knows
day.
who he is.
Yeah.
How is it? You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
50, 60 years. Come on, man. Big shout out to Mike. Like,
Legendary.
legend. Well, more than a legend.
Yeah.
You're a legend. Michael
I
Jackson
can't even say that.
is an icon.
Icon, to
You
say
know,
the least, man.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
he broke many records. I mean, touched many people that couldn't even speak English
Yeah, for
singing
sure.
his songs.
No
you know what I
question.
mean?
I told a story also before.
Prior to social media, prior to all these
Yeah,
things, prior
the
to
craze.
being able to see somebody every day or something. You know
I
what I mean?
remember years ago, I went by the Neverland. This is like after he had passed, some years passed, and you still have people from all over the world pulling up.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even to today,
Yep.
pulling up to just to write their names on the
Mhm.
concrete or give a tribute to him. So crazy. He did crazy impact.
Touched the world, man.
Man,
in a way.
major. So I want to jump into the hot take segment. Okay, so I'm gonna ask a few questions. You would run them down.
Okay.
I got my notepad out so I can just
Oh boy.
look at these questions. Okay,
Oh,
so
boy.
currently, like, what are 5 R&B songs that are on your workout playlist, if any?
Well, one, well, you know, to be honest with you, I don't listen to music when I work out.
Okay,
You know, because I do enjoy peace.
gotcha.
You know what I mean? And silence also, because I've listened to music
Gotcha.
all the time. You know, and in silence, I'm hearing music also. You know what I mean? I'll
Yeah.
be singing like, oh man, that song is in my head.
That's right.
But you know, if I need a boost, I'll listen to some stuff. But I can't help it. Michael Jackson, that's like one of my favorite R&B songs.
Love that record.
You know, I'm gonna throw one of my own songs in there, "Superstar" from Usher.
Come on.
You know what I mean? That's, you know, I love that song. It's not even that Vidal myself, we produced it, but it's a good song lyrically. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna chime in on that. That is such a fantastic song.
Shout out to Ryan Toby.
Shout out
and
to
Pooh
Ryan
Bear.
Toby and Poop. Yeah, absolutely.
They killed it.
Man,
And Faith on the backgrounds, because she didn't get her proper credit on the album, and I felt like trash, terrible. It wasn't my fault, of course.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But she killed those backgrounds. She set that thing off, man. A
Man,
lot of people don't know
absolutely.
she sang backgrounds on that song.
that's a nugget right there.
Yeah.
That song it kind of brings me back to one of the questions I wanted to ask, and if you said it just reminded me. To me, my favorite R&B songs specifically aren't the hits, like aren't the hit singles.
Yeah, it's a lot of B-sides.
Yeah, it's
as
like
they
the
say.
beat.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
So, and Superstar is one of those records. You know,
Mhm.
are there like? Can you name some other songs like that you're like, this song may not have gotten the button push behind it from the label, but it's like one of my favorite ones.
Oh man, I wish I had time to think about that, because there's so many songs.
I bet.
Yeah. One that didn't go by the label. Let's see. that should have maybe been a single. You got me on that one.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, we'll talk
But let's
about
come
it.
back to that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just amazing when I think about our greats. We think about Anita Baker. We think about Whitney Houston. We think about Luther. Fast forward to Boyz II Men and Jodeci. All the way to the Music Soul Childs and the Joes, and
Right.
It a lot of times it's that song that random song on the album that was produced just as well. Same people wrote it or whatever.
Right.
It just wasn't the single, but it may be my favorite record. And Superstar being that Usher's album, Confessions, I don't know if that thing is 15, 20 million albums at this point.
Like 25.
25 million albums, crazy.
I mean, to be honest, man, that was a well put together R&B album of our time.
No
sure.
question.
Because I mean, not only Superstar, but you had quite a few songs on it that I thought could have been singles for sure. Even the Just Blaze record. Throwback.
Throwback. Yeah. Shout out to Rico Love on that too.
And shout out to Robin Thicke, because his production and songs on that album was crazy too. Can You Handle It?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Robin Thicke wrote or co-wrote or whatever. Can You Handle It?
Psst,
come on.
Well, Robin Thicke was a dope dude, man.
No question.
He's
question.
Another cat, man. I remember, to be honest with you, we actually listened to Robin Thicke's album. We listened to one of his songs on his first album before working on Caught Up with Usher, because he was like, man, I want something up tempo, kind of like feel good. And I remember him playing this Robin Thicke song with him riding the bike with the long hair.
I remember that.
It was like,
I remember the video. I can't think of the song. I do remember that.
And I remember, okay, yeah, we could go there. And I remember we started on Caught Up, thinking like, all right, let's give him this up tempo vibe. You know what I mean? Something you could dance to. And
so, are you saying you was thinking of Robin Thicke when you guys came up with Caught Up?
Well, no. He played that as a reference because
Gotcha.
you know what I mean. Because that's that song. I pride myself in making things that sound authentic or unique or one of, if I can help it. You know what I mean? And sometimes that puts me in a place too, because sometimes, hey, we want something that sounds similar. I'm like, that's out already. You know what I mean? And you have other producers like Babyface and LA who their song as soon as it comes on.
Right.
Wow, the chords.
That's
what I mean? But for me, I'm more of a chameleon. I can build different kind of songs. I love for somebody to say, oh man, I didn't know you produced that. That don't even sound like you. Right. I'm like, I
so
like
you don't have that. Well, I won't say you don't have it, but you try not to put a signature.
Yeah, well, my signature is quality. That's my signature.
Nice.
Quality, whatever it is, whether it's a cake or a pie.
Yeah.
It's quality.
I love it. No question. So we have a segment, and you mentioned a second ago that makes me want to go to this. We have a segment called the Pen Game, and or Respect the Pen. As a matter of fact, it's called Respect the Pen. And you were talking about, in terms of R&B music right now, the R&B lyrically is not it's not as much thought put into lyrics. And I think about all the time how the state of the culture. If you go on social media and you're looking at there's women talking about how men ain't this. You have men talking about how women ain't that.
Right.
And I believe music is a soundtrack to our lives. And for the most part, we write out or we're singing about kind of the tempo of what's going on in life, right? But it brings me back to one of the songs, Long Walk from Jill Scott. And in her lines, she said, you're here, I'm pleased. And she's just kind of complimenting her man. Like, you're here, I'm pleased. I really dig your company. Your style, your smile, your peace and your mentality. So she's empowering her man. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, yo, you're all these things. And I want to reciprocate that energy with you. At the end of the song, like when she's just saying, look, we can even just be silent.
Which is an amazing thing.
I ain't gonna hold you. Look,
Listen, if you lived any life, you know that silence is a beautiful
no
thing. You know what I
question.
mean?
No question. Sometimes I guess when I'm home with my wife, just for her being there, the presence of her being there, we don't have to talk about anything.
Right.
I got a busy life. We talk about everything, but sometimes it's just to know that you're here and just being silent. In R&B music, I look at R&B music as, the type of music that puts out a message that is supposed to not only set certain moods or design certain moods, it's supposed to encourage, us in a lot of other ways as well. And I'm listening to that, and I think if we had, I don't want to sound like the old guy in the room saying we got to have music like this specifically.
Right.
At the same time, I think if we can incorporate the real feeling or the real experience into the lyrics, and it not just be one specific subject or that, I think we can have a more well-rounded culture in terms of the audience.
I think so too. I mean, chivalry and acknowledging each other. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. I mean, we need more of it. You know what I mean? Because
For sure.
we got enough party music. I mean, it's well-rounded. You know what I mean? And I just think that music is so powerful, right? So we're easily programmed by music, whether we realize it or not.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So when you're constantly hearing a negative thing, or F this or F that, or you know what I'm saying, it actually taps into your energy. You know what I mean? So if you're hearing more positive things, you know what I'm saying, like, it affects you for sure, I believe. You know what I mean? And I love to make music that brings the the positive out, or you know what I mean. Music's supposed to make you have some kind of emotion, whether it's smile, think, laugh, dance.
Right.
You know what I mean, or want to get physical, sexual, or melancholy, whatever it
Absolutely.
is. You know what I'm saying? But to each his own. You know what I mean? It's different music for everything at this point. You know
Are there any songs that you've written or been a part of that, when you think about certain lyrics that that you want to highlight in that regard?
I've been fortunate to be honest with you, to be a part of a lot of like good songs. You know what I mean?
Fantastic songs.
It's a blessing, to be honest with you. Shout out to all the writers I've worked with
Yeah.
over the years, for sure. I mean, I have. Don't get me wrong. I do have a favorite song by a group called Kendrick. It's called Stars.
I remember Kendrick.
Yeah, and
That's the husband and wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did one of my favorite songs that I've actually worked on, and it's called Stars. And it's just such a beautiful song. I remember going through some relationship issues with my kid's mom at the time, and this song was just like heavy, and I still love it to this day. You know what I mean? And it's like the lyrics say, "We've come so far that the stars look up to you, baby." You know what I mean? So that's old school. These are the kind of lyrics I grew up on. You know what I mean? So every now and then we need some of that. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, I know for the most part, speaking of my woman, she loves me to get, poetic. She want me to talk to me, say something nice to me. And and I'm an R&B guy, so it's not that difficult, for me to tap in, because I don't mind being vulnerable.
Tapping in there. But
That must be
you better say something.
Right. Absolutely, man. So what else do you have coming up? You have anything new coming up?
Of course. I'm always working. I actually just helped with the score of a movie called The Book of Clarence.
Nice.
Produced and written by and scored by James Samuel, who produced another movie called The Harder They Fall,
Nice. Yeah.
along with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
So I mean, this soundtrack and movies is fire. Honestly, we did songs with Jay-Z, Shabba Ranks, Snow Allegra.
Nice.
Survived for sure. I also have a documentary I'm working on called The Soul of the City, right? And it's basically the whole musical history and entertainment history of Philadelphia as the first city. So we basically exploit 6 degrees of separation of how everybody knows each other from Philly, and all the people that have contributed something, basically, that did well, from all the ways from the 60s to American Bandstand, which was started in Philly, to Gamble and Huff, the Boys and Men era with Jazzy Jeff, Will Smith, all the way to the Roots, Neosoul era, all the way up to Meek Mill, Kevin Hart, Allen Iverson, Pink Eve, all the way up to Lil Uzi Vert and Gilly and Wallow, you know what I'm saying? You know, so it exploits everything. It kind of breaks down, you know, a bit of everybody's story, and you know, I mean, it's a thing, you know what I mean?
That's fantastic. That sounds like something that's gonna really go.
It's amazing, to be honest with you. It's not because I'm producing it and executive producing it. It's just it's a great story. It just breaks down a lot of things that were going on in these different time frames, music wise. You know what I mean? The behind the scenes, the producers, the venues, the people that actually, you know, make the music. You know, Scott Storch, James Poyser, Carvin and Ivan, all these different, you know, Jazzy Jeff, Philly producers, stuff like that.
Man, it's really something in the water in Philly. Yeah. Wow.
You know, it's a blessing to be able to grow up in a place like that, for sure, because you can make it in Philly, you can make it anywhere. It's one of the toughest cities. You know, people are not easily moved there. Sure. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know,
the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what they say. You know, gotcha. Any new music coming from outside of those projects, like for yourself?
Well, yeah, I'm actually working on a compilation myself, so I'm doing just I actually have two compilations. One is called Smoker's Delight.
Nice.
It's like you know, it's hip hop and R&B kind of tossed in all together. You know what I mean? But it's all, you know, as they say, smokers music, riders music. You know, good music. Yeah. And I also have another compilation called King of Hearts. You know what I mean? It's kind of retro, and I have a lot of amazing artists on it, to say the least. You know what I mean? Leon Thomas.
Come on.
BJ the Chicago Kid,
both of those guys.
Sir, name a few.
All of those cats. Those are like the new regime of like super dope R&B artists. I'm a big fan of Sir.
It's killing
Masego is crazy. Oh my gosh.
You know, it's a small circle, man. I've watched all these guys like, you know, elevate. It's great to see.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're still very much in tune with what's going on and still very instrumental with you know, within the culture, and you know, having such an illustrious career after 25 plus years, to still be relevant and to still have a passion to create.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing. Don't get me wrong. You know, there's some years where I hated music. You know what I mean? But it's more the business than the music.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But then something kicks me like, oh man, what am I doing? You know, this is what I love. You know, so, you know, it's a blessing to still be received by the new generation. You know what I mean?
That's right.
You know, I'm thankful.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Look, this has been an incredible conversation. I thank you for coming and joining us, bro. Having this conversation. So listen, this is a continue conversation. I need you guys to tap in. I have the incredible Andre Harris with me today. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Can We Talk R&B podcast. And we're out of here.
Peace. Can we talk? Oh, can we talk? Can we talk?